There we go. Right, ready to start. So hi, welcome to our talk on teaching kids programming and cybersecurity. I'm Dalian Terry.
And I'm Sanoop. I work with Dalian on this project. So here's a little bit about us. We're Sheffield Hallam University students. There we study computer security with forensics. We're also part of the STEM Ambassadors program, which is run by STEMnet.
So Sam mentioned STEMnet. It's an organisation run the STEM Ambassador program. Obviously, STEM stands for Science, Technology, Engineering and Maths, and we go in local schools, do activities, we do Year 9 option evenings, lots of advice, and part of these things is ECPC, which Sam's going to mention to you now.
So last year, late September, we opened a business called ECPC, which is short for Early Computer Programming Club. Our main objective was to go into schools and teach primary kids programming using tools like Scratch, Code.org, etc. And it was run as an after-school activity rather than just lessons.
So as Sam mentioned, we started this in September last year as a university project. Myself and Sam and 3 other students. I manage it. We've been getting a lot of interest, but it's sort of grown into just this big project. We've got loads of schools in South Yorkshire involved. We've been getting a lot of interest, but also we did an interview for BBC Radio Sheffield a couple of months ago, which was huge in getting us involved.
So we're also part of the National Science and Engineering Week, where we went into schools and we did a 1-hour talk with primary kids, and we basically tried to get them engaged into programming. We talked about the basics of programming and did some fun exercises, games, etc.
So we used tools like Scratch. We hooked up the Xbox 360 Connect with it. We didn't bring that here today. We just wanted to show you one of the things we did with an Arduino based board. We also mentioned Ada Lovelace, who was one of the world's first programmers in the 1800s technically, and how women were quite prominent actually in programming. So we're trying to get girls interested in this as well. And we think that's really important. Someone mentioned to you about Science Week a little bit briefly, what we did. We did these with activities such as the one we're about to show you, and we've got some images from that as well.
So this is us in the Science Week, where we actually went into schools, and these were actually 100 kids, and we went through exercises with them, and they had their own little MacBooks where they can follow tutorials, and they were making games using if statements, loops, etc.
And this is just one of the several talks we did have a video, but we couldn't get permission from the parents for the kids, so we're going to show that, but there's massive issues. I'm going to show you the demo now. I'm really scared this cursor.
So this is one of the tools we use to get kids engaged.
So just a little bit of background before I start it. It's called a Makey Makey. It's based on an Arduino Leonardo bootloader, and all it does is plug in crocodile clips to certain keys on the keyboard. And on here, what we do is we show them on the screen what a certain, sort of like event-driven programming, and we show them. So what does each key do? It plays a note. So if I go to C, which is the up key, that plays a noise on the laptop if you press the up key. And we talk about all the logical. So how it changes the logical concept of programming, it changes the costume on the left. But before we do that with them, we actually, this should work hopefully. So you earth yourself. I knew it wouldn't work when I did the program. There we go. And usually works quite well. It worked well this morning, didn't it?
Worked very well this morning.
That one's not connected.
Why?
Sorry. And that's what we do with kids. It gets them really interested in it, and there's so many things you could do with it. I set up Pac-Man with some blue tack, and you can do an up, down, left, right, and when they press it and they've earthed themselves, they can play Pac-Man. So it's really interesting.
So they play for a while, then we teach them the code behind it. That's the idea.
Okay, right. So why are we doing this? I don't want to bore you with loads of this is from the National Curriculum in England framework. This is coming into place in September 2014, and it's replacing the ICT subject to core computing, and they'll be learning programming. That's the theory behind it.
So this is the Key Stage 2 framework, and basically kids will be learning coding by using pseudocode. Kids will be learning about the basics of programs, how to make programs, how they simply work. They'll also be learning about simple networks and the World Wide Web and how to use browsers to get data, etc.
Again, breaking the rule of loads of text on the screen, but this is Key Stage 3. The key points we took away from it were Secondary school is key stage 3, so they'll be doing Boolean logic, and, ors and not, so that's sort of going to electronical engineering as well, but also that's the main concepts of programming as well. 2 textual programs they're supposed to use. So Python's the main one that a lot of schools use, and I think that's really cool. Our university should start using that, move from C++ to Python. And also binary digits.
So this is the plan, but there is a big problem. So we did a lot of research into this, and we looked into a lot of reports, and we looked at academic and government reports. And if you go to the next slide, these are one of the reports we looked at. This is the UK Cyber Strategy Landscape Review report by the National Audit Office.
Last one, in terms of text on the screen, shortage of ICT. We're focusing on cyber security and how we think there's going to be a shortage of ICT skills and IT skills, and kids understand how a computer works, and that's going to affect cyber security. So we're trying to get kids more involved with that at a younger age. And also,
that's not the only problem. I think one of the other problems is that the government and all the educational institutes, they are trying to push the national curriculum into schools, but the problem is not with them, it's with the teachers. Can teachers really teach computer science? The answer would be no. Ofsted did a lot of research into this, and they have officially made a statement that there's a skills shortage among ICT teachers. They don't really know a lot about computer science. They're used to teaching word processing packages, databases, presentations, etc. So it is considered a big issue.
So me and Sam compared our education. We did ICT, never got any guidance in programming. It was all off my own back and Sam's own back. It was all word processing. And can they deliver on it? No, they can't. There's a shortage of the teachers that can actually do this. There's even a theory that mathematicians should be teaching computer science. So that's the main thing. What we like to do is we like to have an analogy with it, where we go, a computer's like a car. So ICT is how to learn to drive the car, but computing and programming is going underneath the car, looking at the carburetor, and sort of how can we manipulate the car and change that for our own uses. That's the main idea that we put forward to it. So before we get to the solution, what should be done about this, we've took some quotes from various academics, professionals in cybersecurity and in IT that we've got quotes from, who I've networked with, Sam's networked with, and who we know personally. So the first one is from Dr. David Day. He's at our university at Hallam. He's a lecturer in forensics, and he's also a security consultant for quite a lot of high-profile retailers. He's done some work there. Also, he's quite prominent in catching one of the LulzSec members. So he knows what he's talking about in terms of security.
Right, so David learned programming from BBC microcomputers rather than learning ICT like we did. And David does agree with everything we said, and he calls students these days codophobics, and he believes university students these days are afraid of programming because they never learned it from a young age. So now they find it really difficult. He also thinks coding is a big part of UK security. Here's another quote from Dr. Nick Blundell. He's the chief software engineer at Sec1.
So we spoke with Nick. I'm going into a role at Sec1 in June as a pen tester, and he was in higher education before, so we've been speaking to him. He's talking about how developer training materials, and they start out inherently insecure. He teaches them, but they move that on to their advanced careers, and they're already embedded with vulnerabilities. He mentions buffer overflows, SQL injections, and we're going to be talking with him about teaching college students, if we move into college students in ECPC, and develop tutorials and exercises that we can teach e-safety as well as cyber security as well. So the next quote is from Jesper Jerkenox at Critical Watch. He's the Vice President of Research there in the USA. I reached out to him. We speak on LinkedIn quite a bit, and I just expected a quote, but he actually wrote a full article on his blog on this. So we haven't got the whole link to this. We just took really important things that we thought were really useful. Sam will mention these too.
So Jesper basically agrees with the fact kids should be learning computer science at an early age. He also thinks that kids should do gamification and play games to learn security, like capture the flag, security challenge, etc., rather than just sitting in a classroom and learning theory. But his and our views do clash at one point, that he thinks kids should choose what they want to learn, where we think every student should learn computer science as a mandatory. So the next quote is from Chris Kissing, Senior Manager of Product Development at Citrix.
So I know Chris personally. I've been for an interview down at Citrix with him, and we're good friends now. He mentions Micromodel, BBC Micromodel, computer, and that's also what David Day mentioned. So we seem to have noticed a theme, how when computers came to the masses, how programming happened quite early on, and then there seems to be a shift in the past 10 to 15 years on ICT and how to use a computer. This programming seems to have come out of fashion, so we need to bring that back in now, especially with cybersecurity. So we can integrate programming like we did before. We get cybersecurity in there, everyone benefits, the industry and the economy in the UK. And he also mentioned how Citrix do primary age child visits to Camborne campus in Cambridge, which is where they're based, in Citrix. The next quote is from Darren Fuller he's the director at SecQuest Information Security.
So Darren basically knows all about the national curriculum change, and he agrees with the fact kids should learn computer science. He also talks about how kids will start from key stage 1. They'll learn about basic GUI programming with games, and when they get to key stage 3, they'll be learning Python, Visual Basic, and more textual programming. So the next one quote is from Martin O'Neill. He's the managing director at Corsair.
This is my favourite quote. It's really concise and it just sort of sums up what we feel about in terms of cybersecurity and secure coding. He talks about cross-site scripting flaws, for example, in web applications, and how, like I mentioned earlier, about how developers, when they're learning, they don't think about security, and then when later on in their career they need to be retrained, and they're not coding securely straight away.
So the next one is Peter Collingwood. He's a lecturer at Sheffield University. He teaches software engineering and secure coding. This
was a last minute one. He does robotics and teaches kids, takes robots in. And we're going to be doing stuff with SteelCon, so if you come into SteelCon, we're doing stuff with kids there, because we're STEM ambassadors, we have DBS certificates, CRBs, so we can do this. And he thinks it's really important, and all these quotes you can see, there's a blog online that I've set up you can look at, but he feels it's really important. He works at the British Computing Society with this. So, 2 minutes left. So what's the solution? British Computing Society are helping with this, with the curriculum change. We mentioned how teachers may not be able to deliver on these demands for computer science. They're going to be doing £25,000 scholarships, which is a massive incentive to get teachers into computing society, and we feel like that's really important.
So eSkills UK is also working with the government to create a cybersecurity learning scheme where teachers, ICT teachers, can go in and they will learn all about computer science, cybersecurity, etc. This way they will be actually knowledgeable and they'll be able to teach students in the coming future.
If you go on eSkills, search Google eSkills UK Big Ambitions, there's a cybersecurity game there for kids. It's really, really interesting if you want to look at it and how to teach your kids if you've got your own kids or if you work in schools. There's Code Club as well, which is similar to what we do at ECPC. It's a not-for-profit organisation, volunteers run. It's not nationwide, but we need more help from you guys to get involved with this and solve this problem.
So the government is also working with institutions to do stuff like Cybersecurity Challenge, Capture the Flag, etc. I think it should be more going through the gamification just to learn security rather than going to theory.
And the last one's the really most important point. I really would implore you guys, if you're from a security background or even IT, get involved with STEMnet. It's free, the STEM Ambassador Programme more specifically. And this is from the UK Cyber Security Strategy Report. They're going to continue funding STEMnet, so it's not something that's going to disappear due to funding cuts because they think it's really important. So get involved. You get a free DBS certificate. You can get involved with your local schools. You get a free. Well, it's going to reward your CV, make your CV better. Rewards the schools, the kids, the teachers. Everyone benefits really perfectly. And we use code.org and Scratch. And yeah, thank you for listening. We've just been zoomed out on a hacker on a laptop. That's Sam there. All the quotes are on there on the blog. It's a blog I've just set up, launched in coinciding with this, and our Twitter handles there and LinkedIn handles are there.
Any questions?
Yeah.